Okay, 12:05. We are going to get started and jump into our slideshow. That's going to be a pretty quick introduction to the program, and then we'll start our conversation with our alums. So I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you very much for being here today to talk about community leadership and to hear from graduates of our program. Community Leadership Program really emphasizes the intersection of community and university. And we kick off with this slide because that's from our digital storytelling skills class, which was taught in January. And about half the folks involved were the UMBC students, and about half were community partners, community residents who are taking the course just as a one-time thing to learn about digital storytelling and to get a taste of community leadership. And that was during a break where they were learning a Brazilian dance move. So our courses can be pretty fun. I like your comment, Nikenge. So we'll jump into the rest of the slideshow. Now, this is our vision, which is our kind of more recently formulated vision. I give a lot of credit for this to Dr. Joby Taylor, who helped create our program and who still teaches several courses in the program. And I'm just going to read it, and hopefully you'll get a feel from it of the values and the practices that permeate our program. Learning and working together to champion vibrant communities inclusively, collaboratively, compassionately, equitably, authentically, skillfully, creatively, powerfully, intelligently, sustainably, and courageously. And I think you'll hear kind of the values and the practices captured in these terms when you hear our alumni talk about their work. Next slide. So that first picture showed community folks coming to UMBC to take a course, but just as important is we go out into the community. Several times each semester, we go into neighborhoods, we meet community leaders, nonprofit leaders who are working in those areas. And, we get a feel for what this work can be like. This is a group of students from our Introduction to Community Leadership class about a year and a half ago, going into the neighborhood around our classroom in Southwest Baltimore. And it's a wonderful area, a lot of history, a lot of controversy. So it's just a great way to connect. And as we'll talk about, not only do we go into the neighborhoods for classes, but all of our students do at least 2 community partnership projects as part of the program. Next slide. So we offer 2 forms of studying. One is to get a Master's of Professional Studies, which is a 30-credit master's degree, or a graduate certificate, which is 15 credits, exactly half of the 30. One of the courses involved is 6 credits. That's why you can have 4 courses add up to 15 and 9 courses add up to 30. And the next slide will show a few more details of this. The core courses are taken by both the master's students and the certificate students. So there's complete overlap, right? What the master's students do is take, in addition to the core courses, they take 4 electives. And we couldn't list all those here because they are so many of them. They draw on a lot of the different fields and departments at UMBC, and that's the chance to really connect community leadership to a specific area of interest. But these are the core courses, and they start out with that Introduction to Community Leadership class. I showed the picture of us walking around Southwest Baltimore. We now have what our esteemed alumni did not get to take, which is a methods and methodology course, which is specific to community leadership. We're kicking that off in the fall of 2023, and we're very excited about that. Legal and ethical issues in community leadership is not a requirement for our certificate students. There's one exception to that, but we don't need to go into all the details. But that's a wonderful course that gets into a lot of the nitty-gritty of organizational life in community leadership. Then a new requirement, it used to be Sociology 606, which is now available as an elective, but our new requirement are taking 3 skills courses. These are our 1-credit courses targeted to particular skills that are very useful, I think, both in people's personal, academic, and professional lives. I'm going to talk a little bit about those on the next slide, but now it is required to take 3 of those. Those are 5 weeks long. You can take them kind of at any point during your certificate or during your master's. And then the final project is our capstone. That's where it really all comes together with knowledge, skills, personal growth, and community partnership. It's a 6-credit course taught in the spring, and that's really where people get to kind of integrate a lot of what they have learned along the way into a final capstone seminar and capstone project. So we'll talk a little bit more about these skills courses. We have 9 of them now, and the requirement is to take 3. The wonderful thing is that community learners can take them without enrolling at UMBC. So you could have a class, as I showed in the beginning, that's got a bunch of folks, community learners, along with your UMBC student and staff colleagues. And they typically last, for once a week for 5 weeks. And so you can take 1, 2, or 3 of them per semester. And we've been able to kind of get it more embedded in the UMBC system, so it's gotten very easy to take them and register for them just like any other course. And as I said, these are immediately applicable skills that people can, you can use in your work, you can use in your academic life or your personal life, and they've become very popular with students and beyond community leadership as well. So we're going to wrap up this introductory session just showing, if you haven't been to UMBC, that's the beautiful Catonsville campus on the right there in full bloom. And then for community leadership, we teach a number of our courses out of Southwest Baltimore, and that's our Lion Brothers building on the left-hand side. It's a refurbished factory. It's really a great place for us to offer our courses and to get to know the community around it. So I think we'll hold questions really so that you can ask questions of our alumni, more so than of me, though I'm happy to answer if I can. And really want to, encourage anybody who wants to ask a question, maybe put it in the chat along the way, or wait and you can unmute yourself and ask it at the end. So special thanks to our alums. These were the brave folks who signed up for community leadership way back when we were just getting off the ground. And I'm going to ask them a few questions, and then we'll open it up to everybody else. So my first question, and each of you can take this in turn, is how did community leadership, your studies, differ from previous academic and practical experience that you had before you started the program? And I'll just go the order on my screen and ask Kieran to kick us off. Okay. And maybe also if you could just say a little bit about your yourselves before you jump into answering, that would be great.
That works. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kieran Bailey. I graduated with my master's degree in community leadership in the spring of 2021. So it's been a while. But I currently work as the operations manager for Morgan State University's Center for Urban Health Equity. So really just supporting our community engagement team and our research team from an operations standpoint, making sure that they can carry out all of their community work and research. So the question was, how does this program different from other academic programs that I've been a part of previously? For me personally, one of the differences I noticed was just And Dr. Scott talked about it earlier, just really being community focused and driven and getting out into the community. So that actual practice was different for me, and it was something that I valued and I wanted from a program. And I can say personally that that experience, I guess you call it like that applied learning, really helped provide a well-rounded academic experience.
Great. Thank you so much, Kieran. And I should explain that Cindy's got a bit of laryngitis, so she may talk a little, but she may also answer your questions and my questions in the chat. So let's go to Hannah and then to Cindy. So just remember to introduce yourselves and then jump right in.
My name is Hannah Sadala. I use she, her pronouns. I graduated a semester after Kieran, and in the near future, I'm going to be starting a PsyD doctorate in psychology program in San Diego, and which is, a fun update to share with my community leadership friends. And thank you very much, Cindy. I think my answer echoes a lot of what Karen was saying, and the fact that in a traditional sense, you'll be having classes. We had classes in a classroom setting, but we also were, as you saw in some of the pictures, out and exploring the communities that we were working with and actually engaging, having thoughtful conversations, and making practical and sustainable changes within the community. And that was the most impactful difference for me in terms of how this program was different from other education experiences.
Great. Thank you. And Cindy, up to you, talking or typing?
I will talk as much as I can. I have my tea and my water. So, so I'm Cindy Greenwood. I use she, her pronouns. I work at UMBC in the Center for Women in Technology, or CWIT as we go by. And so I think I echo what both Karen and Hannah have said about, the community aspect really being the main difference between my experience in this program versus other educational programs. So all of that. And I guess one of the things that I didn't expect to get from this experience that I just hadn't even thought about was that we were creating a community of our own, of the students and the alumni in the program. I think Sally and Joby have done a nice job of, really trying to bring us together as much as possible. As alumni, we get to celebrate the graduations of those who come after us, and really just have gatherings and stay in touch with each other, which I think has been something I didn't think of when I joined, that has been really valuable to me as a part of the program that I don't necessarily have from other, educational endeavors.
Thanks for bringing that up, Cindy. And, we kind of start that process early on. And in the introduction class, when we talk about ourselves as a learning community, and certainly Joby Taylor and I feel like we learn a tremendous amount from our students. And students repeatedly tell us how much they learn from each other, because people are coming to the program with a great range of experience and backgrounds and ages. And I think that's that part of the learning is as valuable as the other parts. So I was hoping you could share something pretty specific about your community leadership experience that you value. We've talked about some of the kind of the larger aspects of it and what distinguished it from your other educational experiences, but what's something kind of specific that you remember that you found particularly valuable? And if you don't mind, Karen, we'll jump back to you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So something I actually anchor back to a lot in my current role that is tied to the community leadership program is, partnerships with different community organizations and nonprofits throughout the city. So in my work at the center, we partner with a lot of different people across Baltimore City through our engagement or our research efforts. So the opportunity to work with community partners, in the 601 course as well as the 603 course really helped me understand, how to develop those relationships with community partners, how to think from an asset-based lens instead of a deficit lens, how to really be partners in our work together and think of myself as part of those communities because I'm a resident of Baltimore, so this is my community. So not really coming in as someone who's the expert, but leading with the community, being an expert in their communities. So I think that's something that's more tangible that I use every day in my work, and something that I will continue to use as I continue down this path of community leadership and this work.
I love how direct that connection is, right? Between, what you did in the program and what you're doing now. Thank you for that. Hannah, what's something specific that you want to talk about?
Sure. A concept that visits me daily from my community leadership education is the idea of radical listening and thinking of myself as one big ear, I guess is a good metaphor for it. And the power that comes with listening and intently and consciously putting yourself, like closing your mouth and really taking the time to hear from folks in the community, even if you are a part of a community yourself, seeing how another community member can have a different experience to you based on their identities. And it's a subject that I wrote about a lot in my applications and then also discussed in interviews, and is something that I would attribute my success to.
Yeah. Skill that comes up in virtually everything you do, it sounds like. Wonderful. And you, Cindy, what's something specific that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I think for me, doing the capstone project that I did gave me, I think, a confidence that I didn't have before in what I could do in working with community organizations. So the organization that I worked with is called Building Steps, and they work with 15 different high schools in Baltimore City and are a college access and success organization. So students can apply to be part of this program to help kind of prepare them for college, prepare them to apply to college and scholarships, and then to succeed once they go to college. And the thing that they really needed was to improve their math tutoring program. And I hadn't taken a math class in probably 20 years. And so it was very scary to say, sure, I'll help you build a math tutoring program, because I knew I could not personally do it. So I had to enlist, others in the process. And so, and it's been really successful. I did it, I also graduated in May 21 with Kieran. And so we did, the project ended in May, when I was done with the program, but it continued. We did the summer tutoring in the summer of 21. We did the summer tutoring in 22, and we're working on getting summer tutoring up and running for this summer. So, so that's been exciting to see something that started as a class project continue as a partnership between me and this organization, but also the CWIT, the office where I work, and UMBC as a partner with this community organization. So I was nervous that I wouldn't even be able to, fulfill what they needed. And now it's, sustained over these last few years. So that's been exciting.
That's really amazing that it's going into its third summer already. And I think what you've captured, Cindy, and I'd love to hear a little bit more from Karen and Hannah about either your 601 or your 603 capstone project, is how that differs from a research paper or a internship, right? And I'm often asked by prospective students, what are examples of projects that people have done? Because you're not going in saying, I'm going to research you. And, it's really designed to be something that's of value to the organization that you're working with, but also to provide educational value for you as a student. So you're also not just plugging into a standard internship. So whoever feels like jumping in, Kieran or Hannah, talk a little bit about what you got out of your community partnership project.
You want me to go, Hannah? Okay. What I will say is, so, I've done internships before, and internships are more structured in nature, trying to get you, or at least from my experience, have been more structured in nature, trying to get you a better understanding of the work that you would do as a potential, employee at an organization, trying to get you accustomed to the culture, and that, and those type of things. And then there's always a distinct project that you do at the end of the internship to kind of showcase all of the knowledge and the skills that you learned, but also provide recommendations to the organization on hey, this is something that you could be doing differently. With the research papers, similarly, it's gathering information around a topic that you're interested in or that is was presented in the course, gathering all of the literature reviews, reviewing that, and looking at data, analyzing that data, and presenting recommendations. Almost, in my experience, it's always been somewhat in silo, not in partnership with the community that is affected by the data, or would help the communities, whatever the research paper is, would help the community with the analysis. With the 603 capstone course, it really kind of combines this unique aspect of using your skill sets that you already have and partnering with the organization and their skill sets in helping them address problems that they have. So it's really taking a more an approach of partnership, I guess. It's a more partnership approach to helping them solve their actual problems that they're hey, this is something that we need to address. So with my capstone project, my community partner needed survey development, and they needed data analysis to help them apply for grant money and funding. And that was something that I've had experience doing just in my professional career, and I felt comfortable doing it. So we worked together to kind of partner our strengths to create a project. And it's different because it's not you're working with someone instead of someone providing you a structure, and instead of you going out and just saying hey, this is something I'm interested in. You're really truly partnering with these people from beginning to end, and that was something that was different to me.
Thank you for kind of running through that. It helps, I think, clarify why it's a distinctive kind of project. Hannah, did you want to talk about your community projects at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Karen did a fabulous job of laying out the framework of the project. And I would say, echoing what she alluded to about using your own special skills in collaboration with your community partner, I was able to use my experience with social networking to help my community partner reach different audiences than the ones that they were did my 603 project with the Friends of Patterson Park, and their goal was to reach different networks than they were already reaching with some of their spring and summer events. And I was able to use my language skills in translating some of their documents, their like advertising materials, and then also leveraging different social media platforms to spread the word about Dia de los Niños and some other fall summer events that they were having. So yeah, I think Karen said it most eloquently.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's interesting, as Cindy kind of kicked us off talking about the projects, some of our students engage with these organizations well before the capstone and continue with them well after. So that option is there, but it's definitely not required. It can just be, that semester you go, you dig in deep and have a good experience, but there is the potential for it, I think, to go beyond that as well. And it really just depends on each student's interests and their level of commitment that they want to make. And we're seeing, these projects have real impact, I think, on the organizations. And, it's another way in which we're crossing that community university line, right? We're really trying to serve our community at the same time. We're learning with them and we're learning from them. So there's a lot of learning going on in both directions. Speaking of learning, I think of all of you and all of our students really as lifelong learners. That's something we talk about a lot, while you're still in school, because, the goal is to be adaptive and responsive and, able to continue to learn and grow long after the program. So I'd love to hear what you're thinking about, because I know some of you want to do this in an academic setting, but not everyone, kind of what you're thinking of as your learning goals, and things that you're interested in learning about going forward. Maybe we'll loop back to you, Cindy.
Sure. This is something I've thought about a lot, but I'm not sure that I have the most concrete of answers. I kind of what I talked about the community project, I think, sustaining that is and continues to be a goal of mine. I think, not only have we done the summer tutoring now, we've expanded that into, bringing larger groups of building stuff students to UMBC for some campus tours, and doing having our students in CWIT do computer programming workshops with them and things like that. So I think sustaining and growing the relationship that started with Capstone has been really rewarding and something that I want to continue doing. And I think when it comes to my personal life, that's where I'm still kind of figuring out where my skills are what would be the best home for what I have to offer in terms of the amount of time and commitment. And because there's so many causes and so many social issues that I feel passionately about, and an unlimited amount of time. So, but something that I think very much helped me by going through the community leadership program was that I have a better idea of how to, approach community organizations that are doing work that I think is important. And I have a better idea of what I do have to offer. And so thinking about how I can expand that. So I feel great about the relationship building steps and sustaining and growing that. But I would also like to see myself do that maybe in other ways. Maybe some of it'll be through my professional life, but also see more of that happening in my personal life.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I think, you don't have to have all the answers, obviously, but the fact that you're even, thinking about how you're going to continue to connect is really wonderful. Karen, what are you thinking about learning?
Yeah, learning is always constant for me, and I'm sure that the people I went through the program know that I'm always constantly doing things and I'm a busybody. So I guess for some low-hanging fruit, I kind of try to take the concept of learning just like bite-sized pieces every day. One thing I will say that I learned in the program is that learning can happen anywhere through different mediums. So whether it's listening to a segment on NPR or revisiting some of the materials that we read or we listened to in the program. I know I've been going back through like 1619, just like relearning that and re-listening to that and hearing, different angles and, that's been interesting. So that's some of like the everyday learning activities that I do. In terms of other learning activities, I've actually been trying to put what I've learned into practice. So I actually do now run a girls basketball recreation program. So I'm the commissioner of the league. So that has been very interesting. For me this past season. We just completed our first season and we're about to start up summer league. So I've been learning that way. And then I said I was a busybody. So my newest endeavor is I'm actually getting into more of the academic route. So I'm in the process of applying for a PhD program so I can get more of that academic training and eventually, I don't know what's next. My goal is to kind of go more into a faculty position and kind of really embody all the principles that I learned in the community leadership into my future work as a researcher. So those are just the way that I'm incorporating the learning into my life.
Wow. Quite an impressive array. I really appreciate all that you're doing. And Hannah, what are you going to be thinking about, learning about?
Yeah, I mean, I think besides obviously like pursuing another degree in the learning that will take place in that space, I find myself assessing like critiques on anything that new that I learn that I think community elements are lacking, and I am striving to take that into my next learning experience to you know radically listen while also being a healthy amount of like skeptical and in terms of what can I do to, better um, in my future research and or other learning opportunities, the community elements that are can be implemented. So using what I've learned to inform my future learning experience, kind of like what Kieran was touching on. And it's always so hard to follow my community leadership peers because clearly Kieran's not the only busybody involved in community leadership. Everyone wants to have their hand involved in all their passions, and it's nice to be surrounded by a bunch of high achieving individuals.
Thank you. Well, high achieving, I think your pursuit of a PhD is wonderful. And you're going to establish our West Coast branch. So the San Diego branch of the Community Leadership Program, right? Well, thank you, all of you. Really, these are wonderful answers. And, you're so clearly putting what you've learned into practice, into action on a daily basis, and it's wonderful to hear about that. We have about 20 minutes left, and I'd really love to open up the floor to our guests and participants. Some folks are people who are at UMBC, others are, I guess, thinking about potentially joining the program. So whatever angle you're coming from, I'd love to going to get your maybe a comment or a question for our panelists. And feel free to, Faith, can folks unmute themselves if they want to just say their question?
Absolutely.
Great. So feel free to do that. We have Dr. Joby Taylor on board, and he certainly had a lot to do with all of your learning experience as well, so he might want to chime in.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds like Vicky.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Can you introduce yourself a little bit? Whoever chimes in.
Yes, so I'm Vicky Franco. I started the program in was it 2020? Time, what does time mean anymore? I have not finished, but I do intend to finish. I had to take a little break, but I intend to finish. And I've loved the program so far. Echo everything you all say about relationships and community work and all that. My question is, because this will be a career transition and pivot for me, I understand how to do this type of work in a volunteer sense, but I'm curious about what from the program you learned about, like, as Cindy was saying, focusing your interests and then how that kind of led you to apply and you know, I'll leave it at that.
Who wants to jump in?
That's a good question.
I think, and not to point to Kieran, but I think Kieran has probably had some different roles that are, like since finishing the community leadership program, where, what she did in the program probably helped lead to a new position and thinking about different career moves. I think for me, I have been in the same role since well before I started the community leadership program, and I intend to stay in this role at this point. So for me, it was not so much a career pivot or a shift, but more of, having been in a role for a long time and with the mission that my center has where I work, it very much, the community leadership vision is very much in line with what we care about in CWIT. And so, thinking about, so yes, this 12 Steps partnership now exists, but what else? What other ways can we be more connected to the community? We do have, kind of a branch of K through 12 outreach and things like that. So I think for me, it's been more about like, how can I apply it career-wise where I am, as opposed to using it as a way to move to something different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Karen, did you want to add anything in
I can
response to
definitely.
Vicky?
Yeah, I can definitely add to it. So for me, it was a career shift. My undergraduate degree is in finance, and I was working in corporate America as a financial analyst. And, going into this program, I knew that I wanted to make the jump and shift to something else. But to kind of answer your question, with that shift, right, it's kind of like how we approach our capstone projects and really partnering. It's like using the assets that you already have and also bringing those learnings from the community leadership program and understanding where you want to go. So for me, making the switch to this role was I knew I wanted to get more into an academic space. I knew I had that financial background. I knew how to manage operations. But then also I knew that I learned a whole new skill set, in the community leadership program that my center needed. So I brought all of those experiences along with me. And I think that's something that the program, teaches you from day one, and you can carry it throughout the entire program. And honestly, with you for the rest of your life, is that your experiences are valuable. Bring them with you and show up as your whole self in every situation, and that's enough. Like that's enough to kind of help whatever you need and whatever your challenge you're trying to face. And so that's just kind of something that helped me make the shift. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm. And Hannah, in applying to these highly competitive PhD programs, how did community leadership come into play?
It was at the forefront of a lot of what I was writing about, and also discussing in an interview. Specifically the aspect of community as it relates to research, because PhD programs are very research heavy, but also because not necessarily the other way around. Research doesn't incorporate community very well, as you would be exploring if you were to pursue the community leadership program. I think my motivation to join this program came from just trying to start and do something new. So if that is applicable to you and you have some type of interest, I think being here is a great first step.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's open it back up if folks have questions they want to put in the chat, or just speak up. And if you're a current student in community leadership, feel free to jump in with your thoughts and questions as well. I know you're not shy. Well, I may have to call on somebody. It'd be like class. Rashida, if you're available, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how community leadership's influenced your career development while you've been in the program. I think we just lost her. Scared her away. Maybe she'll tune back
Go ahead.
in.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adiel. I'm apologies for the voice in the background. I really got a lot out of this. Thank you for just sharing about it's interesting to hear about at the start of the program how already like our values and our foundation was so strong. Especially the wanting to create a community within community leadership. That was just like from the start something that we valued, and I've continued to feel that. Actually, there's like a spontaneous gathering on Sunday of like peace workers and community leadership folks, and it was a brunch, and it was just like really made me realize I'm like growing with these people. And someone used the word of like unfolding, like we're unfolding together, which is really beautiful. But I had a question for Kieran. In starting your own initiatives and your own, especially with your basketball, it sounds like a basketball youth development program. I was curious about the part about recruiting a team in the early stages without necessarily having funds yet. It's like it's an awkward thing that I'm trying to navigate right now. And I lead Retriever Essentials at UMBC, and it's mainly volunteer run, and it's difficult sometimes to delegate tasks to students or to folks who aren't getting paid fully. And yeah, I guess kind of just I'm telling myself to just like, trust that people want, if they're attracted to it, they're interested in it, they want to give in the ways that they can. But I would love to hear your professional perspective on that, and if anyone else has any thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a professional yet. I made it through one season. But what I will say is, yeah, I definitely understand, not having a budget. So because our program falls under a West Baltimore County Recreation Council. I think from previous years, we had started off with like maybe $400 in our bank account. But to your point, when you're trying something new and you're reviving a program that hadn't existed since COVID, you need more resources than that. And that's where the creativity comes in to play. And I think that, you know, the program kind of taught us to think outside of the box. Don't just think, you know, traditional ways, try to, you know, think new ways. So really leveraging on the skills of like people within the network that wanted to help. So leveraging their skills on social media. You know, social media was like a big way for us to advertise without having to spend like a lot of dollars to get the girls in. Talking to the schools that are in like the neighborhood, trying to, you know, build partnerships with them, because those would be our biggest advocates, right? So in your case, maybe it's like departments, partnering with different departments, trying to set up different information sessions, trying to figure out, you know, what other students are really getting, like would be really interested in your opportunities. So that's kind of the ways that we started. And then once we got, you know, those key players in place, like everything started to fall in line, right? Because one thing about working with a group of girls who are excited, they're going to tell their friends, and then they're going to bring their friends in, and then they're going to, you know, cascade it out to their cousins or, you know, anybody. And we started from a place where the previous year there was no program. We only had about 8 girls who would come in irregularly to kind of like do skills, to where we actually were able to get over 50 people in our program at a time where, you know, the word and the messaging out there was that there's just no girls. So it's really just been, you know, thinking creatively, but then also once you get the girls or like the students there and they're engaged, making sure you're being intentional about fostering those relationships, because you want them to come back. So it's whether it's, you know, creating small things that, you know, are inexpensive. So like one of the things we do is we celebrate each week like a different player of the week. So all it requires is like I print out a certificate on a piece of paper and like I'll post them on Instagram or Facebook, but the parents get a lot out of it. They see that their players are getting recognized, the players are excited, they're celebrating their teams. So thinking of those fun, creative ways and using your skills that you have. So something I did too, and then this will be like my last point, is just that I have a camera. So what I did was I created like a special day where they could come in and they could take those what they call like the social media pics that you see like the other NBA players take with like the basketball, and they're doing like their fun poses and stuff like that. And that's something that got them excited for the season. They got their parents excited, they're sharing it, and they felt proud to be a part of the program. So it's really just finding creative ways that you can leverage the skills that you have and the skills and the resources that you have access to create programming that's engaging for, you know, the students, and then also just everyone who would be connected to the initiative.
Wow, that's some great ideas there.
That was
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you so
And
much.
Cindy, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll just quickly. So with the tutoring program, you know, like I said, I was not a math education expert by any means. And so as Karen talked about utilizing your network, I kind of thought about it as, what are all the pieces that need to go into developing this tutoring program? Which of them am I capable of doing on my own? And for which things do I need to, you know, recruit help? And so when I thought about the math curriculum, I needed help there. And so I used my network at UMBC of the Sherman STEM Teacher Scholars Program, and reached out to their director, explained what I was doing, and asked if they might have any alumni who might have the time and the interest to help with that. And I very much lucked out, but got an amazing alum who is still working on it with us these few years later. And so, you know, she's done an amazing job with the curriculum. And then from the student side, you know, I have access to a lot of students who take a lot of math, working in the College of Engineering and IT. And so I could recruit scholars from our side, but we didn't, and currently still don't have money to pay them, which is something I am trying to work on. So I worked with the Shriver Center to make sure they could get enrolled in the practicum over the summer. So it's not for academic credit at this time, but it does show up on their transcript as an applied learning experience that they've done. There were some, reflections involved and things like that. So finding a way for the students to get something out of it, even if we didn't have money to pay them. And I had never run a tutoring program before, trained tutors. So I reached out to, again, Sherman STEM Teachers Scholars Program, because they do run tutoring programs, as well as the Academic Success Center here at UMBC that runs all the tutoring for the academic courses, and asked for, resources and things like that on how they train their tutors, and used those. So, I just, like I said, started with what are the things I'm capable of taking the lead on? What do I need other people to take the lead on? And then think about my network and how I could reach out. And also think about, in where it's possible, what, if I don't have money, what else do I have that could be of value to that person that's coming on board, like with the prac for the students.
It's kind of the, it takes a village approach. You're really drawing on all these different connections and contacts that you have, which is fantastic. There is time for at least one more question. If anybody wants to jump in. Allison Moore, is that you?
I have a question. Hi, everyone. I'm actually not a student in the program. Kieran is one of my really good friends, and I'm so excited to be able to watch her in her space today. I have a question for all of you. What lesson from the program have you been able to implement that yielded the best result?
Okay, just jump in, you guys. You can popcorn it.
Nominate Hannah to start.
There you go. Take charge.
I don't know if I missed the beginning part of the question, but I heard that yielded the best result.
Yeah, what
lesson?
lesson from the program
What
have you been
lesson
able to
from-
implement?
We talked a little bit about asset-based community development. I think that's, such a fundamental aspect, and kind of what we were touching on in the last response is really leaning away from a deficit model and focusing on what it is that you're good at, and what you can highlight in the community space that you create, and build up those strengths, and then try to tackle what the group consensus is that you're working towards, what goal. Because if you can lean on what it is that you're good at, or who that is good at doing what, in that framework, it helps you create solutions that will be effective, sustainable, and long lasting. That was super vague. I didn't give specifics, so let me ruminate and see if I can think of some specifics.
Any other, Kieran or Cindy, any thoughts along those lines?
I think my answer is really, the capstone project that I've been talking about that's continued. So that's the ultimate answer. I think that's had the best results. But I think aside from that, just all the the digital storytelling class that Sally talked about at the beginning, where the photo was taken from. I got to do that before it was an official kind of skills course, and did it as a workshop. And that was just something I hadn't had access to before, and really enjoyed learning, and came out of it with something that I didn't really know that I could create. And so I liked that from just learning new skills for myself, and implementing creativity. And then something that I didn't do as a part of the program, I did it before I was in the program, but I know it's something that is discussed within the program is restorative practices and learning more about what that, entire philosophy is and how to implement it. So I have gone through a restorative practices training, which we also did talk about in some of the courses. And then I have tried to implement that in my job with our students and how we handle conflict within our community. So there have been lots of things, but I think the most success is what I was able to do with the capstone.
And I want Karen to chime in as well, but I did put the link in to upcoming skills courses that Cindy mentioned a couple of those. These are the ones offered over the summer and fall. And, any alumni can take these. The idea is that this, whether you're not, thinking about the program, not thinking about the program, done the program, finished the program, wherever you are in your learning trajectory, there's always more to learn. And I think this is a great way to stay connected, or just to explore the program, or just to do something that you think would be fun or useful. Karen, did you want to answer Allison's question?
I mean, briefly, kind of to what you were saying about like the courses, you kind of set it up perfectly. Something that I found the most that's helped me get the best results in the work that I've done is, really just continuously learning and trying to, have that mindset to learn. So every day, whether it's learning from the research team or community engagement team, finding different ways to implement that learning so that we can, just continuously improve and continuously be effective at like what we're trying to do and accomplish our mission. Never stopping learning has kind of been a great tool that I've learned, and completely different from, my background in the corporate America space. It was kind of like once you had those skills, you use those skills and you just continuously used it. You didn't really have to learn too many other things. But always being a learner and always being a practitioner of what we're learning has been very helpful, and gotten some pretty great results.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah, Cindy, Karen. I've learned a lot just hearing what your reflections and hearing what you're working on now. It's really exciting. And our goal is really to have our alumni be resources to each other and to the program to continue that learning community. Once you've graduated from the program, and this is a wonderful example of that. So thank you so much for your reflections and your ideas going forward. I think Karen said it best. Every day we have that opportunity to learn something, and it really makes life a lot more fun and interesting to keep learning, not to just call it quits. So I think, folks, if you have other questions, I'd be happy. You can easily get in touch with me through UMBC, and I'd be happy to forward your questions along or connect you to our alumni. We have other alumni doing wonderful things too. These are just the folks who were available today. So thanks for joining us. It's really, really wonderful to have so many of you part of this conversation. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great to see you.